Welcome, beautiful souls, to Hidden Wholeness, weaving the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine together. This summit series is sponsored by New Earth One Network, and I'm your host, Sherry Lynn. I'm very excited to announce today's special guest, Grace Galzagorry, who has quickly captured my heart. It was just around this time last year when I had the privilege of interviewing Grace for The Legacy of Love, The Return of the Divine Cosmic Mother. But I will say that during our time together, I knew that Grace was someone who was going to be of major importance in my life, and she has since become one of my cherished teachers. So let me tell you a little bit about Grace. Following the call of her soul, Grace left a 25-year career as a nurse practitioner and a UCSF professor to pursue a deep inward journey of the heart. After a sudden and severe chronic illness that lasted for more than a decade, Grace began to connect with the unveiling of the feminine Christ path, which is centered around self-love and the resolution of past life trauma. As Grace began to fully emerge into this deeper union, she began to remember all of her past lives and her connection to the primordial mother. Grace's healing work organically has expanded beyond the healing of individual trauma and group trauma to that of the lineages, humanity, and she's presently working on healing of the planetary trauma as well. So I invite you all to join Grace and myself today as we enter into the sacred dialogue of the freedom of self-love, healing the imbalance of the masculine, feminine within to restore wholeness. And dear Grace, I welcome you as my first guest on this very special summit series. Welcome, Grace.
Thank you so much, Sherry. It's really wonderful to be here, and I'm honored to be your first guest. And I do also remember a year ago when we first met, and I'm always thrilled to be with you. Truly just touches my heart. Thank you.
Mine too. Mine too. And I have no doubt in my mind that as people, if they haven't seen you yet, I'm sure a lot of viewers have already watched and listened to your recordings, but they are going to know that there's some depth to you and an inner awareness that is so special. And it makes us, like each one of us that listens, can feel that, can already feel a little bit of that healing. So I was listening to you and Loren in one of your conversations, and you were talking about the masculine and the feminine. And so you were mentioning that the masculine aspect is our mind, and the feminine aspect comes from the womb, and that they meet in the heart. And it's the vibration of the heart that leads us to this healing, the balance of our bodies. And I couldn't help but think that we know about the heart, we know about the mind, we know about the merging of the heart and the mind. But I have just begun to learn about the womb, and most people wouldn't ever even dream that it's the womb we need to go to access the feminine in us. And this is probably what's causing so much disconnection. So I would love to hear you expand on that, share on that, whatever it is that's coming to you.
Yeah, that's a big topic. In my own journey, I think this is what has taught me what I now teach and the healing that I do. It became apparent after I had cleared a lot in my heart. I had a Kundalini rising experience, and it sort of blew open my womb and my lower body, and there was a lot of darkness there. And I thought I had really done the work by opening my heart, and that deeper darkness took me down. I mean, it was went into lifetimes and a depth of trauma that I really had no awareness of, none. And many of the historical accounts of humanity's history didn't even cover many of those things. But what I discovered through that is the organic connection, because I don't think that I'm necessarily special. I just think we all have this. This is part of our innate design to connect with the mother's love, which was our primordial love, the first love that we knew that held us into creation here. And that is what is that gives us the power of love that we talk about. That's the divine feminine. That's what we need to heal. So when we open that doorway, that portal through the womb, which is necessarily challenging because of the tremendous amount of sexual trauma of all variations that we've had over lifetimes, as well as the trauma that the planet has had, groups of people, etc. And many spiritual traditions, even the earth paths that have been denigrated over lifetimes, has really suppressed this. And we have also come to value the mind and to suppress our bodies and to not really understand that this primordial connection to the earth and to the earth mother, to the divine feminine, is what we need to really awaken this tsunami of love within our own bodies to heal a lot of the old trauma, a lot of this past trauma. And that minus that, we can't get there. So we've been misled or misunderstood because there's been such a suppression of the lower body for so long that that corresponds to the deepest feminine, the mother, the most, I think, the most primordial part of ourselves, that we haven't known how to heal ourselves and that we suppressed and lost that capacity a long time ago. And that resurrecting that is what's so desperately needed now to heal so much of the trauma that's held in our nervous system and our bodies. And so as we awaken that, it also balances and slows down. I don't want to say slows down, but softens the brain and the cerebrum in the way we've held such a rigid concept, that we don't even realize how much separation we've created from this organic, the generic connection with the mother. And those do come together in the heart. And so at this time, it requires the feminine, the mother, to open through the womb portal, and then the cerebrum, the brain, to soften, so that those two can balance together and dance together in the way that the masculine feminine is meant to dance. And through that, we learn how to navigate our world in a new way that really arises from that heart of innocence. It's just so much more, it's just so much richer than the way we've approached life
Yeah.
for many centuries. So that's sort of the way I see it and the way it's unfolded for me. And so I see the richness of it and how it can't be done. There's no bypassing this part of
No.
opening the feminine and opening the deeper womb work that needs to be done.
Well, you just said something that could lead to two different directions, but I'm going to stay on track with the trauma because we were just talking about trauma, and I was saying to you that, I feel that a lot of the ways that trauma is being dealt with is dealing with this lifetime, not realizing that we have many, many, many wounds from previous lifetimes that we're trying to heal to get back to source, to love. And you were sharing a little bit about your thoughts on that too. And so can we explore that a little bit more deeply for the viewers, and so they understand it isn't just about this lifetime for us. We're going deeper, much
Yeah,
deeper.
that's an excellent question. I think that we have even healing. I mean, this really brings up what we consider healing is we have a very cerebral, linear concept of healing. And we think that that in order to heal this, it's basically what kind of physical outcome we can have. And then that means that we're healed, but in fact, it is not the healing at all. Healing, really, true wholeness, is where the soul is leading us through embodiment. And that requires that we truly surrender to our bodies and the wisdom of the mother that comes through the body's cellular structure. And she and really the rhythms of this planet, of Mother Earth, are spirals and seasons and the whole cycles of healing. So there's always deeper, deeper, deeper. I mean, I just see the spirals constantly moving up and moving things from many lifetimes, not just this lifetime. And so in my own trajectory, I had a tremendously traumatic childhood. And in healing that, and it took me a while, I just progressively started to move into, and this corresponded to the Kundalini rising and recognizing, oh, there's a really deep, dark stuff in the womb. And that started to come up. And then it was past lifetime remembrances I can't even tell you, many incidents, actually a number of them related to the feminine Christ consciousness and some of the traumatic events that happened around the rising of the Christ consciousness on this planet. But a lot of that was held in the deeper womb. And it really underscored for me as I started working with people in healing that any event that arises in this life is really intended to take us as deep as possible into the feeling. And through that, we gain access to past lives where the very same issue was up in a little different framework. I mean, it might look a little bit different, but the deeper impetus is still the soul trying to clear some deep trauma that happened to us. And it goes into, I mean, so deep, thousands years deep into our DNA. And then when we get to the core trauma and can clear that, it's like a plug has been released, and this huge flow of love is released into the body. And it literally feels like your body comes alive in ways that our body hasn't been alive in so long that we didn't even know we were missing something.
Yeah. And I can relate to some of that. First of all, I can relate to some of the aliveness. I still have a long way to go, but I am feeling the energy in my body and stuff like that a lot more, especially in the lower chakras now, which I could not feel before. But you were mentioning something, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but it makes me think of our wounds in this lifetime and how they often are related. I think you said to really way far back in a previous lifetime or previous lifetimes, and we keep bringing it in. And I know for myself, I mean, I've shared with you a little bit, and you know a little bit about what's in my history, and that is so hard because I remember you've said to me many times, release this to the Divine Mother, let her take this, let the mother take it, surrender that. And that brings me to tears because it's I can do it when I'm sort of in that state of sleeping. When I'm, my mind isn't challenging me on it and I'm back in the ego and judgment and all of that. But there is something very beautiful about that as we do begin to release. And I think for so many of us, we keep thinking this releasing, we don't really understand what that is. We don't really understand what surrender is. So I would love to explore that a little more deeply because it's hard for the mind to understand this. And yet, for us to really access the soul and the love that you're talking about, the power of love, that's necessary for us to do this.
Well, the I think the places we get stuck is in a lot of our programming and indoctrination, but unbeknownst to us, it also has to do with trauma where we shut down and started to have a more narrow perspective about something, and we don't realize that that's underlying it. And it can be in the lineage as well. It's not just something that happened to us. It could be that the lineage passes on. In fact, this is the genesis of all physical disease. Even there was a point, we think it's genetic diseases, but there was a point where that there was a trauma, and then a lot of activity happened to try to cover that up and to hide from the tremendous pain. It could be overwhelming. It could have been something that was necessary, but eventually we've developed belief systems, and the culture has taught us that we to avoid anything inside and to focus on the outer. So we've all developed these facades of how we should be acting, and we have progressively just shut down our own connection, not recognizing that we are giving up our power, that we are giving up our true authentic connection to the mother, to the whole, and to our wholeness, and also giving up our health, which are all interconnected, intertwined. There is no separation here. As we shut down, we think, oh, I just shut down. I don't want to feel that part. But we're also shutting off the flow of love and health, vitality, all of that, the essence of our own soul, of our own being, of our own expression in the world. There's so much that we are shutting down by shutting that down. But we think, oh no, I can neatly put that piece away. I don't have to look at that. And I can continue to conduct myself and I'm still going to shine in the world. And that's just not how it works. So, I mean, we still can, and it's amazing that we have done as well as we have. But now it feels like the mother is saying, Not anymore.
No
Not
more of
anymore. This
that.
is our time. Come back to your source. Come back to yourself. Come back to who you truly are.
Yeah. And that's a journey, a very, that's a commitment to ourselves. It's the most beautiful commitment we could ever make because that totally changes the way we see everything on the outside, everybody. But you were mentioning, and this was something we talked about briefly too, that so many of us we're bypassing, we're trying to bypass feeling, and so what we do, and I can totally relate to this too, and I do believe it helped me for a bit, but what I would do was wanted to be of service, right? It's like I just want to
Mhm.
serve, without realizing that until I heal my what's going on, what we're doing is you had said something to somebody in a conversation with Loren. One of the guests had asked something, and you said, "Well, I have one concern." I think you said something like that. There's one caution I have. You said, "What is? Let me see. What is it? It's something like." You caution people to become aware of their motivation to help other people. And it wasn't because you were saying that this is bad, don't do this, but rather it was asking us if we've been avoiding something. If by serving others, if we're avoiding feeling, if we're trying to bypass these wounds. And if we don't, what I had said here is I can't help but feel that there's so much truth in this, and that so many of us find it comforting to put our energy and our attention on others, and that we find that healing. We call that healing. That's healing. And I think there's even some places that do say, when you're of service to others, it is healing up to a certain point, right?
Right,
Because we don't realize that what we're doing is we're keeping the imbalance in ourselves. We're not really balancing the masculine and the feminine. We're not doing the real healing work. We're still out there calling it
right,
healing, calling it healing. And it does feel good for a while, but ultimately it comes up again because we're bypassing.
right. And in many ways, I think this is how we've missed the true power of love because we've been trying to love based on what we've been taught through religion or whatever the sources are. And I'm talking even Eastern spirituality of what love is supposed to look like. So we try to live up to that standard, but we don't realize that love begins with self-love. And that we have to really have that balance of the masculine, feminine inside in order to give purely and to really be clear about who we are. I mean, as divine beings, and to know that we have access to this limitless love, and that level of the healing that arises from that is far superior to our trying, in a sense of trying to do it in a certain way and trying to serve others and ignoring ourselves because that's so counterproductive. And it ends up ultimately it works and it works to a certain point, like you were saying, and we feel good doing it because there is something generically true about that. But the deeper truth continues to come up of that we have to heal ourselves and refine that connection of the masculine feminine within ourselves in order to give purely, freely, and limitlessly, in a sense.
Right. And that makes so much sense because otherwise we're projecting, and the people that come to us that we're serving are only triggering the wounds that have yet to be healed. And so they're still mirroring what we don't want to feel. So I kind of laugh at that because this mirroring thing is once you start to understand, it's like, wow, okay, that's pretty powerful.
It's
But
hard.
speak, it really is because it can be good. We can have people like, for me, you're a beautiful mirror and I love your qualities. And so in me, I've got those too. And I love that. But there's
Exactly.
other things that it triggers. And so it's just an invitation to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the spiral that you talk about, the healing. So
And
let's
ultimately learn what love really is. I
Yeah,
mean, what
well,
love really
let's
is.
talk about that because you talk about the imbalance. Like we know obviously this isn't working for us. We're not, there's something that's missing, and it's the feminine. It's the divine feminine that we're missing. And she is rising up, and she is meant to lead, but right now we don't understand. So can we go into that a bit more so people can really understand what it is to balance this in us?
Well, in many ways, I think the divine, I mean, actually, the divine masculine is also missing, but it isn't as, because we don't really understand the divine masculine. Both of them are in such beautiful roles of dancing with one another and so supportive, so loving, so honoring, so considerate, so respectful of one another. And that's not happening. And that's not happening because we have suppressed the divine feminine. And we've become so imbalanced because we try to perceive everything through our minds and to understand everything cerebrally. And even in the understanding of the divine feminine, in a sense, we're still going about it the way we've learned to go about it, which is through reading and books and words, etc. And we can't get it that way because the divine feminine, I speak of the masculine being the mind, but it is also the world of form in many ways and what you can see. And so the eyes are one of our sensory organs. That's the main sensory organ of the divine masculine. The divine feminine is the formless, that which we cannot see, that which we perceive through our feelings, through our intuition, through our sensory, the senses, and the number of senses are increasing all the time that are being appreciated because the body is awakening, and the body has many senses that we haven't known or not valued ever or seen, that are very similar to the senses in a sense that animals have. And it is about connection and connection with the earth. But I think that we don't realize that we are unconsciously devaluing the feminine over and over and over every time we opt for decisions where we're opting for what our cultural heritage has told us, what our tribe has told us, what science is telling us, and in our gut, we're getting a different message. But we don't value that. We don't trust that because we've learned to distrust love and to distrust the divine feminine. That's not because we're terrible people. That's just all we've learned. And this journey of returning to the balance of the masculine and feminine is to understand that that has to be equal, that both the masculine and feminine, and it is the divine feminine that's meant to lead. So we're meant to lead from the inside, from our feelings, from our gut, from our intuition, from our sensory, from our visceral, our somatic connection to the earth, to the feminine, and then use information that is available to us on the outer. And truly, it's the heart that brings those together then and says, here's, the practical application. Here's what it means to be embodied on earth at this time. Here's what my gut is saying. And here's the information from the outer, and to find some level of balance in that. So it is not, so I think we really need to work at trusting, valuing what our gut is saying, and then having the courage, oh my God, the courage to be true to ourselves first, not, well, I will, but maybe, or put it on a back burner now. This is one of the things, as you probably know, I'm constantly reinforcing with my students, is that you have to let the divine feminine know you mean business. You hear her and you intend, is it going to really try to be true to yourself first. And the divine masculine comes in to support that, to make that true or come about in the world of form. So
Right.
get a gut instinct that we're meant to, let's say, need to move to Hawaii. This is part of, oh, I feel I need to move to Hawaii. The grounded way to do that is to really take into account what, do I have children? Do I have kids in school? Do I have a job? Do I have things I need to do responsibly? Knowing that my heart is saying I now need to move to Hawaii, collect information. It's a database. Your mind is collecting information about what it means to live in Hawaii, housing and all that. But the gut is saying, gotta move there. You may not even know why. It may not be that you get a wonderful job. That's not what the point is. It's a soul journey, basically. And gradually we start to trust that more and more and more so that we don't need a lot of external validation. It's okay to get some external validation, and oftentimes it will come. We're following our inner, as you know, many times. Synchronicities, things do show us, oh, you're on the right track. But it means that we have to have the courage to stand behind what's arising from within us. Oftentimes, it's not the popular decision. It's not what your family wants. It's not what other people understand. They, and you've got to be willing not to run over them, but to say, for me, this is true. You don't need to do this, but this is what I want and choose to do.
And that is self-love. And this,
Yes.
what we don't understand is, well, I can only use myself as an example. And it is changing because I understand self-love. I I hear you talk. I hear, I was listening to you and Loren in your conversations, and I'm realizing that there is nothing on the outside that I now need, that everything is being filled within, but it takes time to get there. There is an unfolding. But you're right, the soul agenda and the personal self, there is, you know, when we finally let go and we finally learn to surrender and to trust and to follow that guidance, it will lead us in a direction there is no way our personal self could ever even comprehend. And it doesn't happen all at once. It's slowly this unfolding and this unfurling and revealing and becoming, really becoming. And then it is being more of a state of beingness and stuff like that. But it is a journey. It's a journey. And so for those that are having a hard time, because I remember when I first started going into my body, I couldn't feel anything. I was so disconnected. So so I know things like nature and um there's a meditation that I hear and I love yours, and I would recommend to any viewer to go back and to listen to your conversations with Loren and to listen to especially the parts where you lead us through a healing. They're deep and they you can feel it. And so that's part of the process of beginning to connect with the body and to listen to the wisdom coming from the body. But we're so disconnected. And so many people, they might want to start to try, and then it feels like you hit a wall and then you give up. And this is self-love is never giving up. We don't give up on ourselves ever. So you just do it again and do it again. But do you have any recommendations? I know your course, we're going to get to that, talking about that, and maybe this is the time for you to start to introduce how this can help us, because this is so much beyond self-love. This is the masculine and the feminine and the balancing and addressing all of these traumas and these wounds and stuff like that. So would you like to maybe share with the viewers now, because it's really fitting that we're talking about this, and how do we do this? There's so many people, yeah, I would love this, but I don't have a clue what to do. And we need to
Yeah.
find the right place, the right person, the right, it is a journey of the soul, the self, but you can't always do it yourself to get there, to do the real healing that needs to be done. And I know I fully trust you, Grace. And I would, you've helped me in so many ways, and I'm so deeply grateful. And I truly hope that the viewers that are struggling with this connection to themselves, even though your offer isn't until the new year, they still do it. They still register and they still attend that self-love training, because it's more than training. It totally is transformational.
Well, one of the ways that I was given to do my work wasn't really about teaching, although there's conceptual teaching that has to happen. But doing a class with me means that you're entering into a sacred contract, and that as I am doing planetary healing, but when people enter into the sacred contract with me, I have evolved in a sense to knowing that I, as I call myself, is really not a separate me, and that my body is not this physical form, but that I'm actually the all. And I have truly experience of that constant. I mean, that's how I live. So when instantly am taken into where some of their deepest trauma is, some of the things where they're stuck. And then I clear the whole time we're doing the class, because we don't even know the places that we're stuck because it's so deep, and also because there's been such dissociation, disconnection from the body, which is the greatest disservice that's been done to humanity. So that's a big part of the journey that 24/7 I'm working, my being is working deep in your being to help you clear some of the biggest blocks you have that you're not aware of. So I'm working at very deep levels, and it's really just my greatest joy, honor to work and to clear, because I can see then the concepts I go over in the classes. And to me, self-love is the ultimate balancing of the masculine feminine within. It is to fall in love between the masculine and feminine, because we all hold those aspects within ourselves. And most of what's blocked us is the trauma, is the blocks that we're unaware of, that are unconscious, because it's not just about that relationship and how we are with ourselves, but ultimately it's manifesting even through our physicality, which we don't completely appreciate. And so most of us unconsciously go into avoidance and trying to dissociate or disconnect from, because it's just really painful. And this is part of why beings like myself are here as the embodiment of the mother, of taking on this deeper clearing through compassion and through holding. Of course, it hurts. And of course, yes, it does feel overwhelming. And there is a tremendous amount of trauma and things that we have suppressed for so long. But it opens people in ways they don't even know they were closed down. And I can't tell you how many times I get gratitude from participants who are like, wow, I didn't even know that was missing. Oh my God, I can now feel the earth, or I can feel this part of myself, or I can feel compassion for someone in my lineage that I've had nothing but anger and hatred towards, etc. And it's almost like a miraculous way of moving through, because as you're saying, most of us don't have those tools. And that's not to say that everyone can't do some of it yourselves, because you really do have to be willing to feel, have to be willing to drop into those places. But oftentimes we don't even realize that we're avoiding that feeling. But I think it helps to work with someone that you can trust, that can help you move. Because the other thing is to move efficiently. Otherwise, because every time you hit something like that and you bounce out, you're just prolonging the suffering, and you don't even realize that that's what you're doing. And you're cheating yourself in a sense.
Yeah.
And when you say, I'm not giving up on myself, the self becomes the wholeness of the whole universe. So really what you're saying is you're getting your ego out of the way, so you start to recognize that you are this much greater whole. And there's not even a concept that you would give up on that, because you understand that that is ultimately who you are. And that being in that flow fills you with the richness and the abundance that is our birthright, but that we don't even realize in our belief systems that we shut down and close off. And so it is about clearing those blocks and awakening to how we're doing it to ourselves. And so that's what the self-love classes are about seeing how we are suppressing ourselves, how we keep diminishing ourselves, our habits, and what the main habits are, how we're doing that, and how to shift that. And then by clearing some of the blocks, you actually have a flow that opens you into another level of freedom. That's why self-love is so much. I mean, lots of people teach it in a lot of different ways, and I teach it at the deepest level, because ultimately that level of recognizing the masculine feminine principles within oneself, that and those energies, once those come into balance, it gives rise to a third entity, the Christ consciousness, which is what I'm all about. And that also rises organically within our being. It's part of our generic makeup. It's part of the foundation of the crystalline consciousness. So it really is about the behavior, but it's also about the blocks that are held in our bodies that we're not even aware of, that we haven't known that we could have that level of freedom and that level of abundance for eons. And so we unconsciously are blocking ourselves from that level of freedom and that beauty, that joy, that abundance. I mean, it's really most unfortunate, but it's about identifying those places. We're doing it to ourselves. Because we always think, oh, someone else doing it to me. Ah, you did it to yourself a long time before someone else was ever doing it to
Yeah.
you. If we ever really think someone's doing something.
And it's so deep. Like there's so many things you said, and I'm trying to think, well, where would I like to go with you with this? For me, this really is truly a sacred conversation. And like even the word soul now, I see soul as sovereign, like an acronym, sovereign, oneness, unity, and love. Like this is where we're all going. And um, it's such a beautiful journey. And so it is in spirals and it is in layers. And so we do, I think for people, we're very used to having instant gratification. And so some people, we don't realize that we heal a layer and more of our soul energy can come in, more of our truth, and our healing the divine feminine and the masculine. And but then there'll be another layer and another layer. And like we keep working on it, but the more that we're willing to show up and to intentionally become a creator rather than staying in the consciousness of the victim, which is it's a vibration, right? Victim consciousness is really more than, these words that we raffle off and we say that, oh, don't be a victim, but no, it's a vibration that we hold ourselves in a lower vibration. And as we begin to heal these layers, we begin to lift up. And so I know I've got a long way to go, but I can also say that I can feel so much beautiful energy and it is leading me and guiding me.
That's right. And I think that's the key. Like to that our this is part of the balancing of the masculine and feminine, that our focus comes inward, so that we can see that it's the flow of love that we're trying to liberate. And it may result in some sort of physical outcome or something that we've been desiring for a long time. But our goal, our focus is to liberate the love so that we can live our lives in a way that feels like we're in sync with the universe rather than on our own little agenda. And it's so much more that becomes the priority, to be in the flow, of abundance, joy, beauty, I mean, of our inner self, rather than being in the, fitting in with others and the consensus reality, etc. But I mean, it's just so beautiful, Sherry. And that's ultimately what healing is. It's about wholeness. The word healing comes from the Greek word halon, and it means to make whole. And wholeness is about flow with the universe. That's really what it is, to be in the flow of the universe in embodied form in many ways. That is true healing. That's what true healing is.
And it's so beautiful. It makes me think of, well, this brought me to tears because you can't help it because you feel it so deep in the heart when you're so connected to that love, energy, vibration, whatever it is. It's beautiful. And it's not something that we ever want to give up. And so the one thing that I would love to stress during this time, our conversation with people, and not stress, but really highlight the importance of self-love is where we now are focusing so much more on ourselves and not looking towards somebody else to fill something within us that feels incomplete. Because we'll never get it from the other person. And
Right.
that's why most of us will leave our physical bodies, which makes me sad because I'm all about the soul. And it's like, no, we're here to wake our soul out, let our soul lead us, guide us. It knows a lot more than we do. And so much more is unfolded and comes to us. Like you remember so much from your previous lifetimes as you were doing the healing, and then recognize that it was never about any anybody outside of you. It's only about you. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to remember this, each one of us. And many of us don't know this, but once you do, you realize that there's something in me that is so benevolent and loving. I don't know if it's grace. That's why I love your name so much too, because it's just, and it's the mother, and it's realizing that there is a mother, a divine mother that is holding us. And we didn't know, like many people don't know this, and there's so much to unfold, to allow, to be part of the process of healing. It's not something we're trying, it's not a goal. It's like, oh, I'm going to go
Right,
to this workshop and I'm going to take this self-love and I'm going to love myself. No, no, that's not how we do it.
right. And I also think that we have not understood that part of healing is to acknowledge and embrace our bodies, and that the body holds the eternal wisdom. I mean, of the elements of, I mean, that wisdom, the ancient wisdom is held in our bodies, and that there is no physical affliction that happens by accident. That it is really a wake-up call to bring you deeper into what is it that your body's holding that's out of resonance, out of discord with that flow, and that your body's calling you, come home now. That's really what's happening. And we often reject anything in our body that isn't comfortable, isn't comfortable. Oh, I mean, one of my students was like, oh, I'm feeling too much anxiety. I'm feeling too much discomfort. So I need to slow it down. And I said, that's one approach, but there's still subtle control in that, because you have to really trust that if your soul is presenting you something, your body is presenting you something, we have to go through some of that discomfort, embrace it, feel what it's trying to tell us. That's the way to freedom. It's not trying to control it. So, oh, well, so that I can do it at the pace that's comfortable. Nothing's ever going to be comfortable, really, because we have suppressed so much. And I think it's something that and that's not to say we're meant to be uncomfortable. We're just meant to embrace what the body is bringing up, feel it, feel it. That's where our hearts get involved. Feel what it is that it's giving us. And, I'm not saying this is easy, Sherry, but it really does underscore that there's an intelligence to this that's much greater than what we think we know, that is guiding us home.
Oh, that's,
And that is really, the gift. And it was really my own trajectory, certainly. I didn't want to be sick and disabled and unable to get around and have a chronic back pain and neuropathy and infections and be wasting and etc. No, I wanted to be in the world because I wanted to avoid too. Like I didn't want to be dealing with all that. But it really brought me very quickly into that surrender we were talking about earlier, of recognizing I have no control here, and nobody I'm seeing, the doctors didn't know what to make of or how to help me in many ways. And it was just very frustrating on one level until I understood that there is a deeper surrender. No matter how bad your illness is or whatever, or what your discomfort is, there is a way through it that's leading us to greater flow, greater freedom, greater fun, greater joy. I mean, it's that's really where it's taking us. But most of the time we get scared and we try to control, and fear comes in, and the body right now, I'm seeing many, many, many people having physical afflictions in order to understand this basic premise that the body is not accidental, it's not separate from this universal flow. In fact, it's such a primal part of it, and the amazing wisdom, intelligence that's held in the body, of going into past lives, and that which has been held there for so long that's blocking you from the magnificence, the sovereignty, the beauty of who you are. That and the body seeks to do it quickly, move it quickly. That's what the mother's also saying. Let's not loiter here, but the more we avoid, try to control and seek out quick band-aid solutions, the longer we prolong it, and in a way deny our full potential.
mhm. And I can like I still can go on both sides because I began to use some of my discomfort and really sat with it and talked to my body, and really, allowing what wants to come through. But I know that the other part that's struggling with the pain, and it's like he gets caught up in it. And so that's the clinging and the attachment. And it's the attachment that will never allow us to experience ourselves as these sacred sovereign beings, because it's the attachment that is now in judgment, in fear, in separation, in all of it. And so again, it brings me back to, again, constantly we're going back to surrender, to surrender. And I think that's such a big word that people get so hung up on. And it's just really allowing ourselves to know that nothing I've been trying to do is changing anything. So now I'm willing to let this go, and you lead me, you guide me, and show me the way. Show me what I need to see. And trusting then, so faith, surrender, and trust, they all kind of like are married, and they belong together, because you can't, when you surrender, we're having some faith and trust that the people, the information, the guidance, whatever we need to know will come to us. And that's when we start to experience synchronicities and the awe of life as a teacher, as a guide.
Right, right, right. And part of that surrender is also recognizing that we may get messages that are incongruent with anything we've known before, or than anything we thought was the way to our freedom, in a sense, or to healing, and to trust that, and that's tough.
Very,
That's tough, because
very.
you want to be able to control it or follow something someone else is saying, and your body is saying something else.
Ah, it is a journey though. And I think there's a point that we all hit, each one of us. And it is almost like this calling, something calling us back home. There's this opening in us that's willing to take that next step. And we don't need to know where we're exactly going.
Right.
It's one step after, because I don't even know where I'm going. And I look at you and a year ago, I didn't know you. And now you're one of my teachers that I just absolutely adore. And I've so many shifts in myself. And I can only imagine in another year continue with the work that I'm doing. And we just keep revealing more of ourselves, more of our sacredness and sovereignty too. You do truly begin to fall in love with yourself, with life.
Exactly. You do. And fall, I mean, I say this and I don't mean it in any way as an exaggeration. Fall on your knees in awe at yourself. I mean, that's the ultimate self-love, to really recognize, wow. I mean, just to let that in, to really receive. Uh, it has to result in awe and wonder at that how magnificent we are, and how magnificent this creation is. I mean, it truly just is awe-inspiring.
That's so beautiful. And Grace, I think this would be a very good place to stop and pause and let you lead us, take us through one of your great guided transmissions, and allow us to receive some healing today.
Okay. So I think what I'd like to do is, yeah, I'll do a meditation, but understand that there's a deeper healing, and that the feminine Christ, the vortex, is always holding for healing through love. Okay, so I invite everyone to close your eyes and to just gently start breathing into the heart. Really allowing anything that's been on your mind, everything you've been trying to address, to just slowly drop away now, as you bring your focus ever so gently into your heart. Feeling your feet planted firmly in the earth, gently start to lead you in these beautiful spirals, dropping like a feather, just being willing to release and dissolve anything that doesn't serve at this point, right here in this precious moment. And dropping gently, effortlessly, softly, floating into the heart. And noticing if there's any tightness in the body as this opening is expanding into the heart. And with your next breath, just allowing, embracing any tightness that's arising. Allowing these greater spirals to enfold any of these areas that seem to be tight or withholding or unable to relax or surrender. Setting intention to surrender into love. And noticing this beautiful spiral just naturally, effortlessly starts to move down the spine. Feeling the calling, the beckoning of the mother through the lower pelvis, through the womb. And allowing yourself to float light as a feather, spiraling down the spine. And into the womb. And here again noticing the distinctly different and yet powerful spirals of the womb. Opening here to the essence of a red rose. And gently breathing. Softly receiving from the very roots of this red rose, deep in the earth, through this beautiful plant. You would call in the essence of Mary Magdalene, the heart of the red rose, the heart of the feminine Christ. Allowing the spirals to continue to take us even deeper into the womb, and simultaneously receiving the depths of nourishment, nurturance from the roots of the rose, deeply embedded in Mother Earth. Feeling the mother's compassion. Receiving and embracing her nurturance. Feeling how deeply she cherishes you, her creation. And allowing the many layers of the spiral, beautiful spirals of love, fed by the deep wells of the sacred waters of Mother Earth, to nourish beautiful spirals of the essence, the miracle of the red rose, the deep connection with the earth, the ancient gnosis, the communion, the knowing that we're held in the mother's love, to simply permeate the bones in the lower body, in your legs, in your feet, enriching, filling, permeating, completely feeling caressed and cherished and filled with this essence of love. We allow these spirals to gently, slowly expand and move ever so softly, ever so naturally, organically, without efforting. The mother's love simply expanding and encompassing and slowly moving up the spine and through our whole body, encompassing the whole GI tract, filling the cells of the GI tract with love, with softness, with compassion, filling and remembering the wholeness, the gentleness, the abundance, the joy, the beauty that is the essence of every cell in the GI tract, even deeper than anything we've known. Just filling those cells with remembrance of this connection and this deep nurturance of the mother. Moving into the liver, the spleen, and allowing a filling, a nurturance, a softening. Encompassing and enfolding the gallbladder on the right side of the body, just beneath the ribs, just allowing that to be cleansed, to be purified. Moving softly into the lungs. Filling the lungs with the vitality of life. And just noticing any place that's holding or withholding, afraid to embrace this level of love, of forgiveness for oneself. Any place we're afraid to say yes to life, and just gently surrendering any withholding, and in particular withholding of love for ourselves, a full compassion for ourselves. Moving into the throat now, including the neck, the thyroid, in this beautiful embrace, this beautiful bath, this nurturance of love. And forgiving ourselves for all those things that we've had such a hard time communicating. Just holding with great compassion, great understanding, great love. Ourselves to just be immersed here in the mother's love. Opening into the softness and the gentleness and the knowing that we are that we have never been separate. And allowing the these beautiful swirls, these spirals of love, of compassion, of the gentleness, the sweetness of the red rose, of the love of the mother to continue to permeate and completely envelop our brain, our ears, our eyes, pineal and the pituitary. Softening, allowing. And then opening our crown and just allowing the very sweet and softness of this beautiful rose, and envision the rose opening her petals to the love, the nurturance of the Father, the celestial beings, the stars, the planets, and just opening with such great joy, such great hope. And infinite love, and just starting to receive this beautiful crystalline transmission of purity, of illumination from the stars, and receiving through the crown, moving down the Hara line, clearing and purifying and nurturing the divine feminine, this beautiful essence of the rose with the brilliance and the nurturance of the sun, the divine Father. And easily and effortlessly joining into this beautiful and harmonious dance in the heart, joining the beautiful essence of the rose, the love, with the illumination and the nurturance and the guidance, the clarity of the Divine Father. And just dancing with great joy and reverence and freedom, just feeling liberated by the joining of this great wisdom and this great light. And reveling in the explosion of love and light in the heart as this powerful union bursts and sends its beautiful sparks of love, light, illumination into every cell in the body and beyond. There's a beautiful fountain, a beautiful tribute to the balanced masculine feminine, to the infinite union, to the truth of our divine heritage, of our sovereignty. And just feeling so nurtured and held in the safety of this knowing. We softly, gently, just receive for a moment this depth of being infused with the perfectly balanced masculine and feminine in adoration, in reverence, in love, in respect and consideration, in deep harmony within our own being, within our bodies, and within this whole cosmic structure in which we are currently embodied. And feeling deeply this oneness, we bow to the infinite, to the great I am within ourselves, and within this beautiful playground of our cosmic nature. grateful for every moment of this truth permeating ourselves, of this truth awakening and clearing anything that has been obstructing our awareness, has been denying our own beauty, our own wholeness, our own oneness with the infinite, with the Mother, with the Father. In gratitude we bow for the cosmic union that we are in embodied form, and for this moment of knowing this oneness deep within. We bow to our own being in great reverence, in awe, and in deep, deep gratitude. And gently and softly, we bring our awareness back to our physical body as we've known it, and back into this room, allowing the soft waves of universal love to continue to permeate and clear anything that has been denying this beautiful reality. And when we're ready, just gently, softly opening your eyes.
It was so beautiful, Grace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad we were able to do that.
Yeah, me too. It was beautiful. I received.
I'm so happy. That's wonderful.
So I really truly hope that people spend the time and come back and revisit these and revisit them, because there it is in layers. And we do receive more as we clear more and more opens up. And it's funny because when we think of healthcare, when we think of, like, we go to the dentist over and over, we go to the doctor over and over, we go to chiropractor, anything like that. And yet, for whatever reason, we seem to think that this is something that should happen and be one and done. And not everybody, of course, but at the beginning, sometimes it takes real commitment to ourselves.
It does take, and I say commitment to our hearts, commitment to our souls. And I
Yeah.
also do want to say that, and then people think on the other side of the spectrum, it's never ending. It will never end. This is, endless, and it's so hopeless. But the truth is that your soul knows exactly what it's doing, and that it's bringing through every opportunity in your life, both in the circumstances, your relationships, your job, your health, your body. Everything that's happening is serving this purpose of your liberation. And that ultimately, when you least expect it, you just really surrender into that greater wisdom that's holding us always, 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 looking for our freedom, and for us to be whole and complete and be part of this wonderful cosmic experience. Then in our bodies, then we will be know that you have to go, that there's exactly what you need to do, and that you are going to reach points where you think, I can't do this anymore, I've hit a wall. It's okay. That's also part of the journey, because it's in breaking through some of those walls. And you could say, I give up some days. I mean, I did many days. I begged and said, oh, please, at least I didn't set limits. I didn't try to make something happen that wasn't going to happen. Beg, that my back pain would be gone, that I'd be able to walk again, I'd be able to sit again. I mean, and I was like, oh, and I would have these huge experiences of love, and admittedly was feeling more and more connection, etc. But I can tell you, when I least expected it, this huge explosive opening happened at my crystalline transition, and I could see both White Buffalo Woman and Mother Mary Magdalene, just coming in and completely took over. And even then, I had to believe what I was seeing on the inner. This is why this journey is so important to validate what's happening on the inner. Because I would still come out of these experiences and go, oh, but I still feel pain. I was like, put your focus in the miracle. Put your focus on what's happening inside of you, not on what's happening out here. Not to deny that, but to, I mean, take care of your body. But here, you've been healed. And I could see that this huge flow had happened. But the temptation was, oh, I want to go back over here because a part of me actually wanted to stay in victim. I didn't realize that was familiar. And so then I just got, oh no, faith, put total faith in the healing has happened. I saw it happen on the inner. And, and gradually all the pain disappeared and I was able to walk and everything transformed. I was able to gain weight again and actually lead. I mean, it was a very different life than what I had because of the balance really creates a different world. But it was a beautiful, and I realized all those years, I wanted to give up. And I did give up sometimes. I'll be perfectly honest because it just felt like I've been working at this so hard. I'm so exhausted. And finally, I had just decided, well, I guess I'm just going to die in pain. This is not nothing's going to ever change. And it was a deep genetic autoimmune disease that I had to clear. And eventually, it cleared. And I didn't know when it was going to happen, but it did happen at my crystalline transition. So I just want the viewers to know. Sometimes
Right.
it feels hopeless, feels like nothing is changing. And again, I say, trust what's unfolding because there's a purpose to everything. And it's not just your suffering, it's the wisdom you're gaining from those experiences and the freedom and the claiming of greater identity than anything you've known. And eventually, that leads to major changes in the physical, and it can be healed.
I believe that, not that my experience was anywhere near your experience, but the part of us that's trying to heal something that's still very much attached to the ego and the personal self and wanting it on a timeline and thinking it should be a certain way. And it's all part of the letting go and allowing and then opening ourselves up to the miracle that is coming in for us. And is that's where you brought to your knees and where you just like, oh my goodness, there is something so beautiful about life, about this sacred journey that we're on. And it unfolds for each one of us in a different way.
That's right. And ultimately, I think what you said is so important about recognizing that there is there's I remember reading one time, and it just meant so much to me that your desire, that your vibration is not matching your desire, basically. And until it does, you won't be able to. Basically, I interpret that as be healed. And I need to shed more density to have my vibration be at the level that's commensurate with the outcome I'm looking for. But I didn't completely appreciate then that there's a huge amount of growth that also has to happen to embrace a much larger identity. It's not simply about, the physical outcome, but I understood that there's more density I needed to clear, and that's a lot of the womb stuff is heavy and
Mhm.
dark density
Mhm.
that has to be cleared
Yeah.
and in order to find wholeness, to be whole.
Kind of the lower three chakras, all
Yes.
of them are, because even the root chakra is so ancestral and we're carrying all of that, right?
I
And
thought it was
so,
really interesting once when I saw that the root chakra, we have been traditionally in the spiritual paths been associated crown chakra with elevation and ascension and moving, but we have not appreciated that the root chakra was considered the throne of Isis, and that in Egyptian times it was very much recognized that this was the masculine, and that the feminine had an equivalent crown, and it was the root chakra, and
wow.
that those two were equally important to be open and in balance for us to find wholeness, for us to find the Christ consciousness, for us to find the greater union.
Absolutely. And even just when you say Christ consciousness and the fact that you're on the feminine, Christ path, it's to me, that just speaks to my heart so deeply, and we can't always, the soul is leading and guiding. And so the mind can't quite process and know. But the root, going back to the root though, too, another beautiful thing is that when we really truly work with that in the mother, the primordial mother and connection to earth, we will be able to embody more of her soul energy and actually not try to go out to connect. It's bringing soul in and being living as the soul in this lifetime.
Right.
Yeah, and
And
that's
that informs you in a totally different way because your being in your body, seemingly this physical separate body, but it's really not because you are a vibrational body, you are a field of consciousness, is informing you all the time. So frankly, the mind starts to really become almost minimal in comparison because the aliveness of being present in the moment, each moment, and all the information. I mean, I just get major downloads through my body. In any exchange with people, I can feel what's going on with them because they are me. I'm not thinking, oh, I wonder if this person is one with me. I know they are. I mean, you know what I'm
so.
saying? Like that, but it just becomes a whole other world.
Yeah, Grace, most of us are not going to experience what you have, but it's possible though. You like any of us can. And
Absolutely.
so, and it really truly is a dedication to ourself, to our soul. And
Yes.
that's the beautiful, it is entering communion with self.
Yes. It totally is.
Yes, and I get that. And it's beautiful and it's sacred and there's something about it that it's like, no, we don't want to miss this. Nobody here that's listening to us wants to miss this. So, Grace, is there anything about your self-love program that you're offering that we haven't mentioned that you would like to mention before we come to a close in our session today, our interview, just so people know? Like I believe you covered some, but is there anything else that you want to let viewers know?
Well, as you were saying, it's a 5 week program and we meet on Saturday mornings. And as I said, I do a lot of background healing. And, and then conceptually, we talk about the masculine, feminine in developing a relationship because the feminine is really about relationship and the relational. So it is about developing a relationship between the masculine and feminine so they can come into that state of union. That's really what self-love is. And so in the class, I teach you the basic concepts and also free you of some of the ways you've not been able to do that. And it is a springboard to a whole lifestyle change, basically. And many of my students take the self love class every year because you go deeper and deeper and deeper because there's layers and layers. So I'm not promising you're going to be greatly in love with yourself, etc. at the end of the class. But I am promising that if you really dedicate yourself to yourself and apply some of these principles, that your whole relationship to life will change because that masculine feminine balance within ourselves, when we bring that into balance, it brings everything in our world into balance. Our relationships come into balance, our jobs, etc. Everything comes into balance and it starts to feel like a miraculous world that we're living in. So this is the key, this self-love within is the key. So please know this is such a freeing experience to really recognize. And there's, again, no bypassing this
No,
self-love.
none. At all. And what I do love though too, because you take us through these practices like what you just did, the transmissions and that's so beautiful. And then there's time to share and everything, but also for us to begin to understand what is it, the different aspects of the masculine and the feminine, especially the rogue masculine that has been taking over all of us, society. And this is why we're seeing this such a separation and everything, right? And so we're bringing not only are we awakening the divine feminine because she's ready to rise, but the allowing the divine masculine, the sacred masculine to come in and she will lead, she will tell, and then that aspect of self can take us out. And it does change our whole the way we see, even though something on the outside may not change. It may be exactly the same. The same person may be doing, causing whatever would normally cause a reaction in you. But when you begin to understand, it's a totally different way of entering life, entering your experience in life.
Correct. And it changes your life because you approach it differently. But I do want to say, we didn't really talk about the rogue masculine and the divine feminine, but the I teach that balance of the masculine, divine feminine is such a beautiful harmony. And what we see on the outer and what's destroying our planet is that the rogue masculine has taken over, and we can see it out there. But the point of the class is to learn to see it within you. See how your rogue masculine, all those things you have learned through indoctrination and programming, the things you've been taught, to discount your own feminine, to discount your own divine masculine, actually, and have taken on these habits of behavior that continue to be self-defeating, self-sabotaging. That's to gain that awareness and to start to change that behavior so you can really truly change your life from the inside out. That's the whole point of self-love and balancing the masculine and feminine in that relationship.
That's so beautiful. And I loved what you said, gain the awareness, because that is it. We need to gain the awareness. We need to understand what this is about. And then with that, it's practice. It's a practice of continually showing up as that rather than, and catching ourselves when we do go back. And that's part of the process. It's part of the compassion that you're talking about,
Yeah,
self-compassion.
self-compassion.
Yes.
See, we've all learned that, and we're all doing it. Everyone is doing a level of self-sabotage and self, in the sense of not allowing your full expression, your authentic expression to be seen and known in the world. That we're doing that to ourselves, and to own that piece, and to work from there,
Mhm.
rather than looking outside of ourselves at how we're being held in this victim complex, in a sense.
Well, it's funny that you saw this in here because that's been my life's journey is coming to my truth and expressing that. And it took a very long time.
Well,
So,
there's layer upon layer upon layer of the throat, actually. And it's interesting that recently it's been more about the expression of the body and how we deny our body's needs. And even all expression comes through the throat. So there's a huge amount that I've been clearing, working on with the throat that's related to that, to the body's needs, and seeing truly what the body is, and allowing and honoring our body's wisdom and honoring our body's needs, and not there's just so much about the body and that has been programmed, and that we have learned to really I mean, just no respect. We disrespect for our bodies to the max without recognizing what
exactly.
we're doing.
Yeah,
I mean, I
without
could do a whole
recognizing.
masculine feminine thing on just the body.
I
You
think
know,
you if and when you ever have time to do that, you probably definitely could because it's hard for us to, I can only use myself as an example. And I'm still working on it and still working on it. And I still feel this beautiful energy coming into my body. And yet I still disconnect very easily. But I have the compassion now and I have the awareness and I have the tools now that can
yeah, it
help.
helps,
Yes.
to have that. And I think that people, even some of my most advanced students, I would say, are just now recognizing. And it's interesting because the journey is really to own the feminine first. Then you start to see how you've been distancing the masculine, and how the masculine, the true divine masculine, hasn't really been in your life either. And it's really interesting how that dynamic now, I'm able to teach some of my more advanced students in the body, like to see the masculine feminine balance in the body, and a lot of our programming, even about body image, about our bodies appearance, etc., how much we exercise, what we eat, how the masculine feminine balance is also a part of that, and how do we learn a respect for our body, and that the divine masculine can come in and support that. It's so beautiful, Sherry. I mean, when you really come into the fullness of what wholeness means, But we all have to begin somewhere and keep moving on that journey and accept every step of it, even if there's periods of major avoidance, dissociation, apathy, so be it.
Exactly. Exactly. And that is where, the compassion comes in for ourselves. So it's part of one of the gifts, one of the things that we are being called to embrace is compassion, because that brings our vibration up to another level too.
Right.
So it is important, even if when we do forget, to have compassion for ourselves, which opens up compassion for others, because it's a difficult journey. We forget, and we understand everybody is at where they're at.
Correct, exactly. And every person has to accept exactly where they're at, no comparison,
Right.
because we each have to do our part.
Right.
And one other thing I want to say about my self-love class is that at the very beginning when I started teaching, the Feminine Christ Council came forth to say they would support me if I would step forth and teach. And so the beings from the Feminine Christ Council come forth and support each class depending on the theme of the class, what their wisdom, share their wisdom, and they also help with the healing. So I have a great entourage who supports my work and my healing
You
work.
do. And now that you mention that, I would like to honor Mary Magdalene today on this special day that you and I meet.
Thank you. I really felt her come in when we got into the womb because of her deep commitment to healing um, sexuality, sensuality, and awakening these deeper places that have been so traumatized. And her tremendous, oh my God, just dedication. This brings tears to my eyes. Her tremendous dedication declaring how much we have been enslaved by the fear of the divine feminine that has suppressed the power of sacred sexuality and the power of sacred sensuality, and my just deep devotion to Mary Magdalene because of her commitment to go into these dark places and willing to help humanity to clear and heal these incredibly deep traumatic experiences, to find the true power of love. This is clearly, I mean, the red rose is her rose, in a sense. So it was really interesting that it came in.
So funny, because for the longest time I kept hearing the way of the rose, the way of the rose. I had no idea what that meant. I do feel that she's very present, and I do know that the reason you and I have met today, is partly because of her guidance. So she's beautiful, and I love her too, and thank her for being part of this process with us, and all of the guidance that you bring in, all the beautiful divine feminine masters that are helping us remember, getting us back home to our divinity, to our remembrance, to fully embodying and experiencing that. So, dear Grace, I thank you so much for this beautiful time that we had together again.
Thank you, dear. Thank you, Sherry. I very much love and appreciate you. Thank you.
Mhm. And the feeling is so mutual. So I send you and everybody so much love, peace, and blessings.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.